Welcome to Kitchen Table Conversations, a series of short and shareable conversation starters for those of us who have or love and support people with a complicated and beautiful brain. Here's your host, Angela Geddes.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kitchen Table Conversations. Today is the 1st of March, and it actually is the beginning of Social Work Month. And it's really interesting because last week I was at a lunch meeting with a family, and they were asking me what I do and what role I play as a social worker. I think initially they thought I was a psychologist, and they recognized that there was some community visits at times and community connections. So they were asking me, and I really had to think about how I explained what it is that I do. And so I think for starters, I really refer to myself most often as a helper. And I believe that we all need helpers from time to time. Help us to clear a path, help us to further investigate, help us to further understand, help us to communicate important messages with the people who are important to us. We need helpers to advocate for things that we should have access to or have better understanding of. So basically, that's kind of how I summarize what it is I do. I also think that it's important for all of us to have helpers in our personal life to help, to understand how our own emotions are manifesting, where they come from, sometimes the origin of our stressors or our current unpleasant feelings. And, taking some time to honor the feelings and to recognize that we all develop patterns, and some of them help us take us where we want to go, and some of these patterns that we develop, in fact, hinder our progress. So social workers can be really instrumental in helping to tease out some of those things. And, I'm not in the business of giving advice, but I'm certainly in the business of asking questions and doing a little bit of an assessment and digging a little bit deeper with the people that I support to help them come up with these solutions to the goals that they create for themselves. So social work practice derived many, many years ago, in large part due to the work that churches were doing and their role to kind of provide a social safety net for individuals who are experiencing a number of different barriers. So barriers to food, housing, education, and employment, for example. And the current focus remains primarily on reducing poverty and the impacts of it in terms of communities and family dynamics and the overall health and well-being, and to advocate for equality and access. So Canadian social workers share some of the following core values, and that would be to respect the dignity and the worth of all persons. We are constantly in pursuit of social justice. We provide service to humanity. We demonstrate integrity in professional practice. We also demonstrate confidentiality in professional practice and creating safe places for people to come and share their most intimate moments and experiences. And we are responsible to make sure that we keep up with our skills and ongoing professional development and overall competence in the field. So what is it that social workers do? Well, it's fairly broad, and social workers serve people. I don't personally work for any organization, and some would argue that I never really did. I got paid from organizations, but I've always really believed that I work for the people that I walk alongside and the people that I support. And sometimes, to be honest, this has gotten me into a little bit of trouble, but rest assured, I've never broken any ethics or lacked professionalism, but I've always been one to sort of push the barriers a little bit in order to make sure that the people that I'm walking beside have access to the supports that maybe are just outside of their reach. So, we try to be very creative. I've always been a helper, as I said, and be, kind of explore creative ways to make things happen or to reduce or remove the barriers for people. So, for example, I've, worked with a lot of different organizations and created partnerships that enabled a rural community that I worked in to offer high school equivalency. The GED program was brought so that for those people who are living rurally and without transportation, they had access to continue their education for adult learners. I've been to Queen's Park with a number of people who've experienced oral health issues that were pretty tragic and pretty difficult. So we work towards, government funding and making sure that oral health was offered to more people at reduced rates or free for some of our young people in particular. So we work towards policy change as well. And social workers believe inherently that people are capable, people are resourceful, people are very creative and resilient until they're not. And sometimes they're not most often it's when they're misunderstood or misdiagnosed or missed altogether. So I think that's one of the roles that social workers have too, is to kind of dig a little deeper. So we are a diverse group of practitioners working in a variety of settings. I have completed informal research working in different sectors that I hadn't worked in the past, in order for me to see for myself what kind of opportunities there are to build on and what we can do to become more inclusive for people with complicated and beautiful brains. And I do believe and I recognize that we all can't be experts in all things, and social workers do tend to hone in on a particular area of interest and passion, and we could become more skilled in that area and a more of a resource for other people. And for me personally, the impact of prenatal alcohol exposure and FASD is a part of every single thing that I do as a social worker, and I believe that it is for most of us who work in this field. So I encourage you to check out this article once again that's on my website. It's called FASD in Social Work, and it speaks specifically to the integral role that we as social workers have for kids who've been exposed to alcohol prenatally. So as I said, we work in a variety of different settings, including child protection and community health centers and family health teams, where I spent a lot of my years learning so many things, correctional facilities and family courts as well, veteran services, and I do offer support to many of our veterans who experience PTSD and depression and other service-related injuries, including chronic pain management. Government departments and member of parliament offices to kind of guide policies. There's opportunities for social workers to work in hospitals, which I've spent some time in as well, long-term care facilities, hospices, human rights organizations and advocacy organizations, certainly mental health clinics and private practice, schools and school boards, social service agencies and youth drop-in centers, for example, social housing organizations, and certainly post-secondary education has social workers and therapists that help with academic success as well. So this work is meaningful, it's important, and it's so satisfying in so many instances. And it's also emotional, considering that we do take the weight for and from other people sometimes, and this can be tiring. So we do need to kind of practice what we preach and take care of ourselves and take care of each other. For me personally, the individuals and families, sometimes that work can be challenging. Watching someone suffer is very hard. But the system stigma and the barriers that exist, I think, is probably what I find the most challenging, particularly when the people within the organizations don't seem to see the need for change and for, little things to happen in order to make a huge impact. So it is my hope that our contributions will make it so that families will not have to advocate and work so hard for themselves for things that should naturally be more available, things that are basic human rights, things that we all deserve. It's my hope that my work and our work specifically, and I guess around raising awareness and supporting healthy pregnancies of all kinds. So I think that my current focus remains reducing both the incidences and the impact of prenatal alcohol exposure. That kind of gets me up every morning, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that I have to walk along so many kind and resilient and strong and creative and just amazing individuals. So I'm very thankful that I really do love my job. Feel free to check out my website for more information about social workers and their role in communities, and specifically their role with regards to fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And there's also training opportunities in that regard. So yeah, check out the website, and we'll be sharing a lot of information about social workers and our roles through social media. So feel free to share within that as well. So again, thanks so much for tuning in and bringing these conversations back to your own circles and your own kitchen tables. With many thanks, Angela.